Hey everyone, I'm Monoscaling. I'm here to guide you today. If you use this video to drift off to sleep, please tap like, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now get comfortable and relax. My name is Mason Bell. One morning, the forest was silent. Then the shapes appeared, walking on four legs but not animals. I need to write this down while I still remember it clearly, while I'm still sure about what happened and what didn't. The doctor says it might help putting it into words. I don't know if that's true, but I know I need to try before the details start blurring together the way they've been doing lately. It was supposed to be a simple camping trip. 7 days in Kisatchie Forest in Louisiana, just me and Rachel in the RV we'd borrowed from her uncle. We'd been planning it for months. Rachel had just finished her master's program, and I'd finally gotten 2 weeks off from the hospital where I worked as an X-ray technician. We wanted somewhere quiet. Somewhere we could disconnect and just be together without the constant noise of the city. We left Baton Rouge on a Saturday morning in early September. The drive took about 2 hours, and Rachel spent most of it reading aloud from a book about the area's history. The Kisatchie Forest wasn't as well known as some of the other national forests, which was exactly why we'd chosen it. Fewer people, more peace. The RV site we'd booked was called Kincaid Recreation Area. It was one of the more remote spots in the forest, and the website had promised full hookups, clean bathrooms, and hiking trails that went deep into the wilderness. When we pulled in around noon, there were maybe a dozen other RVs scattered across the campground, spaced far enough apart that you could almost forget other people were there. Our spot was near the edge of the campground, right where the forest started to get dense. Rachel loved it immediately. She was always the outdoorsy one between us. I'd grown up in suburbs and strip malls, but she'd spent summers at her grandmother's place near the Atchafalaya Basin. She knew how to build a fire, how to identify plants, all that stuff I'd never learned. We spent the rest of that first day getting settled. The RV was bigger than I'd expected, with a small kitchen, a bathroom, and a bed in the back that folded down from the wall. There was a dining area that converted into another sleeping space and plenty of storage. Rachel's uncle had clearly used it a lot. Everything had its place, and there were little touches like curtains on the windows and a good set of cooking pots. That evening, we walked around the campground. We met a few other campers. There was an older couple from Texas in a massive fifth wheel, a family with 3 kids who were staying for the weekend, and a guy probably in his 30s who was traveling alone in a small camper van. Everyone seemed friendly enough. Normal people doing normal things. The forest around us was alive with sound. Birds calling to each other, insects buzzing, the rustle of small animals moving through the underbrush. Rachel identified some of the bird calls for me. She said she could hear woodpeckers and warblers and what might have been a barred owl getting ready for its nightly hunt. We made dinner on the RV's little propane stove. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, nothing fancy. We ate outside at the picnic table that came with our site, watching the sun go down through the trees. The temperature dropped quickly once the light faded, and we ended up putting on sweatshirts. "This is perfect," Rachel said. She was smiling the way she did when she was genuinely happy, not just being polite. "I'm so glad we did this." I agreed. It was perfect. It was exactly what we'd needed. We went to bed early that night, tired from the drive and the unpacking. The RV's bed was surprisingly comfortable. I fell asleep listening to the sounds of the forest outside, feeling more relaxed than I had in months. I woke up on Sunday morning around 7. Rachel was already up, sitting at the dinette with a cup of coffee and her book. She'd opened the windows and I could smell the forest, that rich, earthy scent of pine and damp soil. "Morning," she said without looking up. "Coffee's ready if you want some." I poured myself a cup and joined her. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, just enjoying the quiet. It was the kind of quiet you can't get in the city, where there's always traffic or sirens or someone's music bleeding through the walls. Except it wasn't quite quiet. That's when I first noticed it, though I didn't think much of it at the time. The forest was making noise, but it was different from the night before. Fewer birds, still some insect sounds, but not as many. "You want to do that trail today?" Rachel asked. "The one that goes to the creek?" We'd looked at the map the night before. There was a trail that started near our campground and went about 3 miles into the forest, following an old logging road before cutting off toward a creek. The website had described it as moderate difficulty, with beautiful views of old-growth pine. "Sure," I said. "Let me wake up first." We spent the morning taking our time. We had breakfast, eggs and toast made on the propane stove. We cleaned up. We packed a small backpack with water bottles, some trail mix, and a basic first aid kit. Rachel charged her phone even though neither of us had cell service out here. By the time we started hiking, it was almost 11. The trailhead was marked with a brown wooden sign that had been carved with the words Creek Trail and an arrow pointing into the trees. The first part of the hike was easy. The old logging road was wide and mostly flat, covered in a layer of pine needles that made our footsteps soft. The trees on either side were tall and straight, their trunks dark with age. Rachel walked ahead of me, like she always did when we hiked. She had more energy, more enthusiasm for this kind of thing. I was happy just to follow along and enjoy the scenery. "It's quiet today," she said after we'd been walking for about 20 minutes. She was right. I'd been noticing it too, but hadn't said anything. There were hardly any bird sounds, no insects buzzing around us, no rustling in the underbrush. "Maybe it's the time of day," I suggested. "Too hot or something." "It's only 70 degrees, Rachel said. But she didn't push the point, she just kept walking. The trail narrowed after about a mile, leaving the old logging road and cutting into denser forest. This part was hillier with more roots and rocks to watch out for. We had to slow down, paying more attention to where we put our feet. That's when Rachel stopped suddenly. "Do you hear that?" she asked. I listened. At first I didn't hear anything at all. Then I caught it, a faint rustling sound coming from somewhere ahead of us on the trail. "Animal?" I suggested. "Maybe." We stood there for a moment, waiting to see if whatever it was would show itself. The rustling came again, closer this time. Then we saw movement through the trees. It was a deer, a doe, walking slowly across the trail about 30 feet ahead of us. She didn't seem to notice us at first, just moved from one side to the other with her head down like she was looking for something. Then she stopped, right in the middle of the trail, and she turned to look directly at us. I've seen plenty of deer before. Louisiana has tons of them, but there was something about the way this one looked at us that felt wrong. She didn't startle or run. She just stared, her dark eyes locked on us, completely still. "That's weird," Rachel whispered. The deer stood there for what felt like a full minute, though it was probably only 10 or 15 seconds. Then she turned and walked into the forest on the other side of the trail, moving slowly, deliberately, like she had all the time in the world. "Okay," I said. That was strange. Yeah. We kept hiking. The trail followed a small ridge, then descended toward the creek we'd been heading for. We could hear the water before we saw it, a gentle burbling sound that cut through the silence of the forest. The creek itself was pretty, clear water running over smooth stones with ferns growing along the banks. We sat on a fallen log and ate our trail mix, passing the water bottle back and forth. "I love this," Rachel said. "We should do this more often." "We should," I agreed. But I was thinking about the silence, about how wrong it felt to be in a forest and not hear any birds, not hear any insects, just the sound of the creek and our own breathing. We stayed by the creek for maybe half an hour, then started back. The hike out was uphill for the most part, and we were both sweating by the time we got back to the old logging road. That's when Rachel grabbed my arm. "Look," she said, pointing ahead. There were animals on the trail, a lot of them, deer mostly, but also what looked like several raccoons, maybe some possums. They were all moving in the same direction, away from us, heading deeper into the forest. They weren't running. They were just walking, steadily, purposefully, like they had somewhere to be. "What are they doing?" Rachel asked. "I don't know." We watched them disappear into the trees on the left side of the trail. There must have been a dozen deer plus all the smaller animals. It was the most wildlife I'd seen since we'd arrived. all concentrated in one place, all moving together. "That's really weird," Rachel said. I didn't have a good response to that, so I just said, "Yeah." We finished the hike back to the campground without seeing any other animals. When we got back to our RV, it was mid-afternoon. We were both tired and hungry, so we made sandwiches and ate them inside where it was cooler. That evening, we decided to explore the rest of the campground. Most of the other RVs were still there, but we didn't see many people. The family with kids had apparently left. Their site was empty except for some trash they'd left behind. The guy with the camper van was sitting outside his vehicle reading a book. We waved and he waved back, but he didn't seem interested in conversation. The older couple from Texas was packing up their RV. The man saw us and called out, "You folks staying long?" "Through next Saturday," Rachel said. He nodded, but he didn't smile. "Well, good luck with that." "Is something wrong?" I asked. "Just don't like the feel of this place anymore," he said. "Been coming here for 5 years, but this time something's off. Can't put my finger on it." His wife came out of the RV carrying a bag. She looked at us, then looked away quickly. They finished packing without saying anything else, and we walked back to our site. "That was weird," Rachel said. Everything was weird that day, but I didn't want to admit how much it was bothering me. Monday morning, I woke up to complete silence. Not just quiet. Silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy, oppressive. No birds, no insects, no wind moving through the trees. Nothing. I lay in bed for a few minutes, just listening. Rachel was still asleep next to me, her breathing the only sound in the world. I got up quietly and went to the window. The sun was up, light filtering through the trees, but the forest looked empty. Dead. Like we were inside a photograph instead of a real place. I made coffee, being as quiet as I could because I didn't want to wake Rachel yet. I needed a few minutes to process what I was feeling, which was a creeping sense of dread that I couldn't explain. When Rachel did wake up about 20 minutes later, the first thing she said was, "Where are all the birds?" "I don't know." We sat at the dinette, drinking our coffee, both of us staring out the windows at the silent forest. "Should we leave?" Rachel asked after a while. Part of me wanted to say yes, but another part, the part that didn't want to seem paranoid or irrational, said, "It's probably nothing. Maybe there's a storm coming and the animals can sense it. There's no storm in the forecast. Well, maybe the forecast is wrong." Rachel didn't look convinced, but she didn't push it. We decided to spend the day around the RV instead of hiking. We read. We played cards. We made lunch and dinner. We tried to act like everything was normal. But the silence was overwhelming. It pressed in on us from all sides, making it hard to think, hard to relax. Every little sound we made, the clink of a fork on a plate, the rustle of a page turning, seemed too loud, intrusive. Around sunset, Rachel went outside to use the bathroom. The campground had a small facility with showers and toilets, about a 5-minute walk from our site. She'd been gone for maybe 10 minutes when I heard her running back. She burst through the RV door, her face pale. "What's wrong?" I asked, standing up. "There's something out there," she said. She was breathing hard, like she'd been sprinting. "What kind of something?" "I don't know. I was walking back from the bathroom and I saw something in the trees. It was big, bigger than a person, and it was moving on 4 legs, but..." She stopped, shaking her head. "It wasn't moving right. Animals don't move like that." "Maybe it was a bear," I suggested, though I knew black bears didn't get that big, and Louisiana didn't have grizzlies. It wasn't a bear. I looked out the window. The light was fading fast, and the forest was turning into a wall of shadows. I couldn't see anything moving out there, but that didn't mean much. "Okay," I said. "We'll stay inside tonight. Lock the door, we'll be fine." Rachel nodded, but I could see she was scared. Hell, I was scared too, though I was trying not to show it. We locked the door. We closed all the curtains. We turned on the RV's interior lights, which suddenly seemed too bright, like we were advertising our presence to whatever was out there. We tried to act normal. We played another card game. We talked about work, about friends, about anything except what Rachel had seen. But the conversation kept dying, and we'd fall into silence, just sitting there listening to the nothing outside. Around 10 o'clock, we heard the first sound. It came from the forest, off to the left of our RV. A low, wet clicking noise like someone snapping their tongue against the roof of their mouth. Click, click, click. Then silence. Then click, click, click again. "What is that?" Rachel whispered. "I don't know." The clicking moved. It came from the right side now, then from behind us, then from the front. Whatever was making it was circling our RV. We sat frozen, not moving, barely breathing. The clicking continued for maybe 5 minutes, moving in a slow circle around us. Then it stopped. The silence returned. We sat there for another hour, waiting, but the clicking didn't come back. Eventually, we decided to try to sleep. We left the lights on. Neither of us wanted to admit it, but we were both too scared to turn them off. I didn't sleep well. I kept waking up, listening for the clicking, but I never heard it again. When morning finally came, I felt exhausted, drained. Rachel looked just as bad as I felt. We made coffee without talking much. When we finally did speak, it was to agree on one thing. We needed to leave. "We'll pack up this morning," I said. "We'll just go home. We can come back another time when things feel more normal." Rachel nodded. "Yeah, okay." We started packing. It should have taken maybe an hour to get everything put away and the RV ready to drive, but we were both moving slowly, still tired from the sleepless night. I was outside, disconnecting the water hose, when I noticed that the campground was empty. All the other RVs were gone. The family had left on Saturday, the Texas couple on Sunday, but there had been at least half a dozen other campers when we'd arrived. Now there was nothing, just empty sites with fire pits and picnic tables, no sign that anyone had been there recently. "Rach," I called, "come look at this." She came outside, looked around, and I saw her face go pale again. "When did everyone leave?" she asked. "I don't know. I didn't hear any engines last night. Did you?" She shook her head. We finished packing in silence, both of us moving faster now, more urgently. We needed to get out of here. Something was very wrong with this place, and we needed to leave before it got worse. I climbed into the driver's seat. Rachel got in the passenger side. I turned the key. Nothing happened. I tried again. The engine turned over, coughed, and died. "Come on," I muttered, trying a third time. The same thing. The engine would start to catch, then quit. "What's wrong with it?" Rachel asked. "I don't know. It was fine when we drove here." I tried a few more times, but the result was always the same. The RV wouldn't start. "Okay," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Okay, I'll check the engine. Maybe it's something simple." I got out and went around to the front. I didn't know much about engines, but I could check the basics and battery connections, oil, coolant. Everything looked fine. I went back inside. "I think we need to call for help." "We don't have cell service," Rachel reminded me. "Right, okay, there's a ranger station. We saw it when we drove in, remember? It's maybe 2 miles back toward the main road. We can walk there, get help." Rachel looked nervous, but she nodded. "Okay, let's go." We packed a small bag with water, some snacks, our phones, even though they were useless out here. We locked up the RV and started walking. The silence of the forest was even more oppressive now that we were outside, exposed. Our footsteps on the gravel road sounded impossibly loud. I kept expecting to hear that clicking sound or to see something moving in the trees, but there was nothing. Just silence and stillness. We walked for about 20 minutes before Rachel stopped. "Mason," she said, "look at the trees." I looked. At first, I didn't see what she was talking about. Then I noticed it. The trees on either side of the road were marked, scratched, long, parallel gouges in the bark, like something with claws had scraped them as it passed. The marks were fresh. The exposed wood underneath was still light-colored, not yet darkened by exposure to air. "Keep walking," I said. We moved faster now, not quite running but close. The marks on the trees continued, appearing every few yards on both sides of the road. Whatever had made them was big, and it had been moving parallel to the road, staying just inside the tree line. We should have reached the ranger station by now, I was sure of it. But we kept walking, and the station never appeared. The road just kept going, straight and empty, with those scratched trees on either side. "This doesn't make sense," Rachel said. "The station was right here. I saw it when we drove in." "I know. So where is it?" I didn't have an answer. We walked for another 10 minutes, then 20. The road should have reached the main highway by now, but it didn't. It just kept going, endless, unchanging. "We need to go back," Rachel said. "This isn't working." I wanted to argue, but she was right. Something was wrong. The road wasn't behaving the way it should. We turned around and started walking back toward our campsite. The walk back should have taken the same amount of time as the walk out, but it didn't. We walked for what felt like over an hour, and our RV never appeared. The campground never appeared. Just more road, more trees, more of those horrible scratches in the bark. "Mason," Rachel said. Her voice was shaking. "I'm scared." "I know. Me too." We kept walking. I tried to think rationally about what was happening, but none of it made sense. Roads don't just extend forever. Places don't just disappear. This wasn't possible, except it was happening. Finally, after what might have been 2 hours, we saw our campground in the distance. Our RV was still there, exactly where we'd left it. We ran the last 100 yards, desperate to get back to something familiar, something solid. Inside the RV, we locked the door and sat at the dinette, both of us breathing hard. "What the hell is going on?" Rachel asked. "I don't know. This isn't normal. None of this is normal." "I know." We sat in silence for a while, trying to process what had just happened. The more I thought about it, the less sense it made. We'd walked for hours, but somehow we'd ended up back where we started. The ranger station had vanished. The highway had vanished. "We're trapped," Rachel said quietly. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, but I couldn't, because I was starting to think she was right. That night, the clicking returned. It started around midnight. We were both still awake, neither of us able to sleep. The sound came from somewhere in the distance at first, that same wet clicking noise, but then it got closer, circling our RV like it had the night before. But this time, there was more than one source of clicking. I could hear at least 3 or 4 different points of origin, all moving around us, all making that horrible sound. "They're surrounding us," Rachel whispered. I didn't respond. I was too busy listening, trying to track the movement of the sounds. They were methodical, coordinated, like whatever was making them was intelligent enough to strategize. Then the clicking stopped. All at once. Complete silence. We waited, hardly breathing. There was a scratching sound on the side of the RV. Long, slow scrapes, like claws dragging across the metal. It moved from the back toward the front, then stopped right next to where we were sitting. Rachel grabbed my hand, squeezing hard. The scratching continued. It moved to the roof now, directly above us. Something was up there, something heavy enough that I could hear its weight shifting as it moved. Then there was a sound at the door. Not scratching, something else. A wet, sliding noise, like something was rubbing itself against the door, testing it. The door handle moved. Not much, just a little, like something was trying to figure out how it worked. "It's trying to get in," Rachel said, her voice barely audible. The handle moved again, then stopped. We sat frozen for what felt like hours, listening to the sounds outside, the scratching on the roof, the sliding sound at the door, the clicking that would start and stop in no pattern I could discern. Then, as suddenly as it had started, everything stopped. The silence returned. We didn't move for a long time after that. We just sat there, holding hands, waiting for dawn. When the sun finally came up, I forced myself to go outside and look around. There were marks on the RV, long scratches in the paint just like the marks on the trees. The door handle was smeared with something clear and viscous, like mucus. I went back inside without saying anything. Rachel looked at me, and I knew she could see it on my face. This was real. We weren't imagining it. "We need to try the engine again," I said. We did. It still wouldn't start. The next 3 days blurred together. We stayed inside the RV as much as possible, only going out when we absolutely had to. The clicking sounds continued every night, sometimes close, sometimes distant. During the day, the forest remained silent and empty. We were running low on food. We'd planned to go into town halfway through the week to resupply, but that obviously wasn't going to happen. We were rationing what we had left, trying to make it last. Rachel wasn't sleeping. I'd wake up in the middle of the night to find her sitting at the dinette, staring out the window, her face drawn and pale. She'd lost weight. We both had. Neither of us had much of an appetite. On the fourth day, Rachel said she needed to use the bathroom facilities. The RV had a toilet, but we were running low on water and we needed to conserve it. "I'll go with you, Ark," I said. "No, I'll be fine. It's daytime. Whatever's out there only comes at night." I didn't like it, but she was adamant. She left, and I watched her walk across the empty campground toward the bathroom building. She was gone for about 15 minutes. When she came back, she was walking slower than usual. Stiff. "Are you okay?" I asked when she came inside. "Yeah, fine." But she didn't look fine. Her eyes seemed unfocused, distant. "Are you sure?" I said, "I'm fine, Mason." She went to the back of the RV and lay down on the bed. I stood there for a moment, uncertain, then decided to give her some space. An hour later, I went to check on her. She was still lying there, staring at the ceiling. "Rachel." She turned her head to look at me, and for just a second, I could swear she didn't recognize me. Then she blinked, and the moment passed. "What?" she asked. "Are you feeling okay? You seem off." "I'm fine, just tired." Over the next few hours, I noticed more small things that seemed wrong. Rachel's movements were slightly off, a little too deliberate. She'd pause before speaking, like she had to think about what words to use. Her smile, when she did smile, didn't quite reach her eyes. That night, I woke up around 2 in the morning. Rachel wasn't in bed next to me. I got up and found her standing at the window, looking out into the darkness. She was completely still, her breath fogging the glass. "Rach, what are you doing?" She didn't answer at first, just kept staring out the window. Then, without turning to look at me, she said, "They're out there." "I know. Come back to bed." "They want us to come out." A chill ran down my spine. "What?" "They're calling us. Can't you hear them?" I listened. I could hear the clicking, distant but present, but that was all. "Rachel, come away from the window." She turned to look at me, and in the dim light her eyes seemed different, darker. Or maybe it was just the shadows. "Don't you want to go out there, Mason? Don't you want to see them?" "No, come to bed, please." She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay." She came back to bed, but I didn't sleep after that. I just lay there watching her, noticing how still she was, how her breathing seemed slower than normal, how her eyes stayed open staring at the ceiling until I finally fell asleep from exhaustion. The next morning, Rachel seemed more like herself. She made coffee, made conversation, smiled in ways that looked genuine. I started to think maybe I'd been paranoid, seeing things that weren't there because I was stressed and scared. But then, around noon, she said something that made my blood run cold. "We should go for a walk." "What?" "A walk. Into the forest. I think we've been hiding in here too long. We need to see what's out there." "Rachel, are you insane? Something's out there. Something dangerous." "I know, that's why we need to see it. We need to understand." "No, absolutely not. We're staying right here." She looked at me, and again I saw that unfocused quality in her eyes, that sense that she wasn't quite there. "You're right," she said after a moment. "Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking." But an hour later she suggested it again, and an hour after that. Each time I refused, and each time she backed down quickly, almost too quickly, like she was just going through the motions of the conversation. That evening, while I was heating up some canned soup on the stove, I turned around to find Rachel standing right behind me. She'd moved completely silently, and I hadn't heard her approach. "Jesus," I said, jumping. "You scared me." "Sorry," she said, but she didn't move, just stood there too close, staring at me. Can you give me some space? I asked. She took a step back, but her eyes never left my face. There was something calculating in her gaze, like she was studying me, measuring me. Rachel, what's going on with you? Nothing. I'm fine. You're not fine. You've been acting strange since yesterday. I'm just tired, Mason. We're both tired. This whole thing has been exhausting. She was right about that, at least. But something was wrong with her. Something more than just fatigue. That night, I pretended to be asleep. I lay in bed with my eyes closed, breathing slowly and evenly, while Rachel sat at the dinette. I could hear her moving around, but I couldn't tell what she was doing. After about an hour, I heard the RV door open quietly. I sat up. Rachel was gone. I got up and looked out the window. In the moonlight, I could see her walking across the campground toward the trees. She was moving with that same stiff, deliberate gait I'd noticed before. I should have let her go. Whatever was wrong with her, whatever had happened, maybe it was better to just let her walk into the forest and not come back. But I couldn't. Despite everything, despite how much she was scaring me, I couldn't just abandon her. I put on my shoes and went after her. She was about 50 yards ahead, just reaching the tree line when I caught up to her. Rachel, stop. She stopped and turned to face me. In the moonlight, her face looked pale, almost luminous. Go back, Mason. Come with me, please. Whatever's happening to you, we can figure it out, but you can't go into the forest. I have to. Why? She tilted her head, considering the question. Because they're waiting for me. Who's waiting for you? All of them. They've been waiting. They need me to come. I took a step toward her, and she took a step back, maintaining the distance between us. Rachel, listen to me. You're not thinking clearly. Something's happened to you, something when you went to the bathroom yesterday. But you're still in there. You can fight this. There's nothing to fight, she said. Her voice was calm, eerily calm. I'm more myself now than I've ever been. I can see things clearly now. I understand. Understand what? That we don't belong here. That this place isn't for us, that we should have left when we had the chance. Then let's leave. Let's get in the RV, and the RV won't start. You know that. Then we'll walk. We'll follow the road until we find help. She shook her head. There is no help. There's only the forest. There's only them. She turned and started walking into the trees. I ran after her, grabbing her arm. She spun around with surprising speed and strength, pushing me back. I stumbled, fell. By the time I got up, she was gone, vanished into the darkness between the trees. I stood there for a long moment, breathing hard, trying to decide what to do. Then I heard the clicking. Close. Very close. Surrounding me. I ran back to the RV, not looking behind me, not stopping until I was inside with the door locked. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the dinette, watching the windows, waiting for Rachel to come back. She didn't. When dawn came, I went outside and looked at the forest. There was no sign of her, no tracks, no indication of which direction she'd gone. I called her name a few times, but my voice sounded small and pathetic in the silence. I gave up quickly. I spent the day in a kind of daze, not really thinking, just existing. I ate some crackers. I drank some water. I stared out the windows at the empty campground. As evening approached, I heard footsteps outside. I looked out to see Rachel walking back across the campground toward the RV. She was moving normally now, not stiff or awkward. When she came inside, she was smiling. "Hey," she said. "Sorry about last night. I wasn't feeling well." "Where did you go?" "I just needed some air. I walked around for a while, then I came back and slept in one of the empty RVs. I didn't want to disturb you." She was lying. I knew she was lying. But she sounded so normal, so much like herself, that part of me wanted to believe her. "Are you feeling better now?" I asked. "Much better. I think I just needed to clear my head." She made dinner, the last of our canned food. She talked about what we'd do when we got home, about restaurants we'd go to, about movies we wanted to see. She sounded exactly like the Rachel I knew, the Rachel I'd been dating for 3 years. Except she wasn't. I knew she wasn't. After dinner, she suggested we play cards. We did. She laughed at jokes I made. She touched my hand when she dealt the cards. She did everything right. But her eyes were wrong. They were too dark, too flat. When she thought I wasn't looking, I'd catch her staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Around 10 o'clock, she yawned and said she was tired. "I'm going to bed," she said. "You coming?" "In a bit, I'm not sleepy yet." "Okay." She leaned over and kissed me on the cheek. Her lips were cold. "Don't stay up too late." She went to the back of the RV. I heard her getting into bed, settling down. I sat at the dinette listening. After about 20 minutes, I heard her breathing change, becoming slower and deeper, like she was asleep. I waited another 10 minutes, then got up quietly and went to look at her. Her eyes were open, staring at the ceiling, unblinking. I backed away slowly, trying not to make any noise. I went back to the dinette and sat there, my heart pounding. Whatever was lying in that bed, it wasn't Rachel anymore. I stayed awake all night watching her. She never moved, never blinked. Just lay there with her eyes open, staring at nothing. When morning came, she got up like nothing was wrong. She made coffee. She asked how I'd slept. She acted completely normal. "We should try the engine again," she said. "Maybe it'll start today." "Okay." We went outside together. I got in the driver's seat and she stood nearby, watching. I turned the key. The engine started immediately. I stared at the dashboard in disbelief. After 5 days of refusing to start, suddenly it was working perfectly. "See?" Rachel said. She was smiling. "Everything's fine now." "Yeah," I said slowly. "Everything's fine. So, let's go home. We've been here long enough, don't you think?" I did think that. I wanted nothing more than to leave this place, to get back to civilization, to something that made sense. But I looked at Rachel standing there, smiling that wrong smile, and I knew that if I got in this RV with her, if I drove away with her, something terrible would happen. "Actually," I said, turning off the engine, "I think I forgot something. I need to check the back." "What did you forget?" "Just something. Give me a minute." I got out and walked around to the back of the RV. Rachel followed me. "Mason, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. You're acting strange." "I'm acting strange?" I turned to face her. "You've been acting strange for 2 days, Rachel. Or should I even call you that? Because you're not her, are you?" Her smile faded. "What are you talking about?" "I saw you last night. You weren't sleeping. You were just lying there with your eyes open, staring at nothing. People don't sleep like that." "I have insomnia sometimes. You know that. Don't lie to me. Whatever you are, wherever Rachel is, just tell me the truth." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she tilted her head, studying me with those flat, dark eyes. "Rachel is fine," she said. Her voice had changed subtly, losing some of its warmth. "Rachel is better than she's ever been." "What did you do to her?" "Nothing she didn't want. Nothing that hurt." "I don't believe you." "You don't have to believe me, you just have to come with me. Get in the RV, Mason, drive us home, everything will be fine." "No. No. I'm not going anywhere with you." She sighed, like I was being difficult. "That's disappointing." "Where is she? Where's the real Rachel?" "I told you, she's right here. I'm her and she's me. We're the same now." "That's not possible. A lot of things aren't possible. And yet." She spread her hands, indicating herself, the RV, the forest around us. I took a step back. She took a step forward. "Mason, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Stay away from me. We could do this the easy way. You could just come with me. You could let it happen. It doesn't hurt." Rachel didn't feel any pain. I said stay away. I turned and ran. I heard her behind me, not running, just walking at that steady, deliberate pace. I ran across the empty campground, past the other vacant RV sites, toward the road. I could hear the clicking starting up in the forest around me. Multiple sources, getting closer. I ran faster. My lungs burned. My legs ached, but I kept running, not daring to look back. The road stretched ahead of me, endless and empty, but I ran anyway because what else could I do? I ran for what felt like hours. The clicking followed me, sometimes close, sometimes distant, but always there. I never saw what was making the sounds, and part of me was grateful for that. Eventually, I had to stop. I was exhausted, dehydrated, my chest heaving. I bent over, hands on my knees, trying to catch my breath. The clicking had stopped. I looked around. I was still on the same road, surrounded by the same forest, but somehow I'd made it farther than before. The campground was nowhere in sight. Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned to see Rachel walking toward me. She looked tired, sweaty, like she'd been running too. "Mason," she said. She sounded like herself again. Normal, scared. "Mason, what's happening? Where are we?" "Rachel, I don't remember. I was in the bathroom and then everything got fuzzy and now I'm here and I don't understand what's going on." I wanted to believe her. I wanted it so badly. "How did you find me?" I asked. "I followed you. I saw you running and I followed you." "Why were you chasing me?" "I wasn't chasing you. I was trying to catch up. I was worried." She sounded genuine. She looked genuine, but I'd been fooled before. "Tell me something only Rachel would know," I said. She frowned. "What?" "Something personal. Something you've never told anyone else." She thought for a moment. "When I was 12, I stole $20 from my mom's purse to buy a CD. I felt so guilty that I couldn't even listen to it. I threw it away and never told anyone." That was true. She'd told me that story on our second date, laughing about what a terrible criminal she'd been as a kid. "Okay," I said. "Okay, it's you." I started to move toward her, but then I stopped. Because Rachel had told me that story on our second date. But it wasn't just me she'd told. We'd been at a restaurant and the waitress had overheard part of the conversation and laughed along with us. Other people knew that story. It wasn't private. "What's wrong?" Rachel asked. She took a step toward me. "Tell me something no one else knows. Something you've never told anyone." "I just did." "No. Something else. Something you've never said out loud." She hesitated, just for a second. But that hesitation told me everything I needed to know. "Mason." I ran again. This time I heard her chasing me, really chasing me, running at full speed. "Mason, stop, please." I didn't stop. I kept running, even though I didn't know where I was going, even though I knew the road would probably just circle back to the campground eventually. I ran until my legs gave out and I collapsed on the side of the road. I couldn't go any farther, I just couldn't. Rachel caught up to me a moment later. She wasn't even breathing hard. "You can't run forever," she said. "I can try." She crouched down next to me. Up close, I could see that her eyes weren't quite right. The pupils were too big, too dark. "Why are you fighting this?" she asked. "It's inevitable. Everyone who comes here eventually joins us. The forest doesn't let people leave." "What are you? What happened to Rachel?" "Rachel is still here. She's part of us now. All of us. We're a community. We're family." "You're not family. You're monsters." She shook her head. "We're not monsters. We're just different. We've evolved beyond what you are. We're better." "Then why do you need to trick people? Why can't you just let us go?" "Because the forest is hungry. It's always hungry. It needs new additions, new perspectives, new life." That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have to make sense. It just is. She reached out to touch my face and I flinched back. "Don't touch me." "Mason, please, it'll be easier if you don't fight." "No." I tried to get up, to run again, but my legs wouldn't cooperate. I was too exhausted, too depleted. Rachel, or the thing that looked like Rachel, stood up and looked down at me. "I'm sorry it has to be this way," she said. "I really am." Then she turned and walked into the forest, leaving me there on the side of the road. I sat there for a long time, trying to gather my strength. The sun was starting to set. I needed to find shelter before dark, but I had no idea where to go or what to do. That's when I heard the engine. A vehicle was coming down the road. I could hear it getting closer, the sound of tires on gravel. I stood up, waving my arms, ready to flag it down. A park ranger's truck rounded the bend. It slowed down when the driver saw me, then stopped. A middle-aged woman in a ranger's uniform got out. "Are you okay?" she asked. No, I need help. My girlfriend and we've been trapped here for almost a week, and something's wrong with her, and I need to get out of here." The ranger's expression shifted from concern to something else, something I couldn't quite read. "You've been trapped here?" she repeated. "Yes. At the Kincaid campground. Our RV wouldn't start and we couldn't find the main highway, and now Rachel isn't herself anymore. And I need help." The ranger nodded slowly. "I see. Why don't you get in the truck? I'll take you somewhere safe." I hesitated. There was something about the way she was looking at me that felt off. "Where?" I asked. "The ranger station. We can call for help from there, get you back to civilization." "There is no ranger station. I tried to find it before. It doesn't exist." She smiled. It was a kind smile, a patient smile. "Of course it exists. Come on, I'll show you." I took a step back. No. "You're one of them, aren't you?" Her smile didn't waver. "I don't know what you mean." "Your eyes. They're wrong, just like Rachel's." She looked at me for a long moment, and then her smile widened, showing too many teeth. "Get in the truck, Mason." I turned and ran back into the forest. Behind me, I heard her laughing. I ran without direction, without purpose, just trying to get away. The trees closed in around me and the light faded fast. I ran until I couldn't run anymore, and then I collapsed against a tree, my chest heaving, my whole body shaking. That's when I heard the clicking again. All around me. Dozens of sources, maybe hundreds. And then I saw them. They emerged from the trees, moving on 4 legs, but not like any animal I'd ever seen. They were roughly the size of large dogs, but their limbs bent in wrong directions, and their skin was smooth and pale, almost translucent. They had faces, or what approximated faces, holes where eyes should be, slits where mouths should be. They surrounded me, clicking and clicking, that horrible wet sound that had haunted my nightmares for days. I closed my eyes. I couldn't look at them anymore. I couldn't process what I was seeing. "Mason." I opened my eyes. Rachel was standing in front of me, the real Rachel, or what I desperately hoped was the real Rachel. "Rach? I'm here. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. What's happening to me? You're becoming one of us. It's already starting. Can't you feel it?" I could. Now that she mentioned it, I could feel something changing inside me. A shifting, a rearranging. Like my body was being reshaped from the inside out. "No," I said. "No, I don't want this." "It's too late. You've been here too long. You've breathed too much of the air, drank too much of the water. It's in you now. How do I stop it?" "You can't." The things around us clicked louder, like they were excited. "Rachel, please, help me." "I can't help you, but I can make it easier." She held out her hand. "Take my hand, Mason. Let it happen. Don't fight it. It'll hurt less if you don't fight." I looked at her hand. Then I looked at the things surrounding us, clicking and clicking. I had a choice to make. That was 6 months ago. I'm writing this from my apartment in Baton Rouge. After everything that happened, I somehow made it out of that forest. I don't remember how. One moment I was surrounded by those things, and the next I was stumbling onto the main highway, where a truck driver picked me up and took me to the nearest hospital. They found Rachel a week later. She was at the campground, alive and confused, claiming she didn't remember anything after going to the bathroom that day. The RV was fine. Everything was fine. Except nothing was fine. I look at Rachel now. We're still together, somehow. And I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Her eyes look normal. She acts normal. Everyone says she's fine. But sometimes late at night I hear her get up. I hear her standing at the window looking out at the city. And when I get up to check on her, I see that she's not blinking. She's just staring exactly like she was that night in the RV. And sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I see my own eyes changing, getting darker, flatter. Sometimes I hear clicking sounds that no one else seems to notice. Sometimes I dream about the forest, about those things moving through the trees, about that ranger with too many teeth. And sometimes I think about going back. There's a part of me that wants to, that needs to. Like something inside me is calling to that place, to those things, to whatever's waiting there in the silence. But I don't go back. Not yet. I just write this down over and over, trying to remember, trying to hold on to what really happened. Because the memories are starting to fade. The details are becoming fuzzy. Soon I think I won't remember it at all. Or maybe I'll remember it differently. Maybe I'll remember it as a simple camping trip. A week in the forest with my girlfriend, nothing remarkable, nothing strange. Maybe that would be better. Or maybe it's already started, and I just don't realize it yet. Maybe I'm already one of them, and this is what they do. They write things down, trying to warn people, trying to remember what they were before they changed. But no one ever listens. No one ever believes. And the forest keeps waiting, patient and hungry, for the next people who make the mistake of thinking they can just pass through without becoming part of something larger, something older, something that doesn't have a name. My name is Mason Bell. One morning the forest was silent. Then the shapes appeared, walking on 4 legs but not animals. And now I can't stop thinking about them. I can't stop wanting to go back. My name is Ethan Bennett. This happened last September at an RV park outside Moab, Utah, and I need to write it down before I forget the details, or before I convince myself it didn't happen the way I remember. I was there with my friend Marcus and his girlfriend Jenna. We'd rented a decent-sized RV for a week, planning to hit some trails around arches and canyonlands. Marcus and I had been friends since college. We both worked in IT in Denver and had been talking about this trip for months. Jenna was newer to the relationship, maybe 6 months in, and I didn't know her well. She was nice enough, though. Worked as a paralegal. Laughed at Marcus's dumb jokes. The RV park was about 15 miles outside Moab proper, tucked against some red rock formations. It wasn't fancy. Maybe 30 sites total, half of them empty when we arrived on a Thursday afternoon. The woman at the office was in her 60s, and she barely looked up when Marcus paid for the week. She handed him a map of the sites and a Wi-Fi password that didn't work. We picked a spot near the back, away from the few other campers. Our closest neighbors were an older couple in a vintage Airstream who kept to themselves. Beyond our site, there was just desert and rock formations stretching out toward the canyon country. The first 2 days were normal. We hiked Devil's Garden, drove up to Dead Horse Point, cooked burgers on the RV's tiny propane grill. Marcus and Jenna bickered occasionally. Small stuff about directions or whose turn it was to drive, but nothing serious. I mostly stayed out of it, read my book, took photos. On Saturday night, we stayed up late drinking beer and playing cards at the picnic table outside. The park had a no-fire policy because of drought conditions, so we just sat there under the lights strung up on the RV awning. Around midnight, Marcus and Jenna called it a night. I wasn't tired, so I turned off the lights and sat outside in the dark for a while. That's when I first noticed it. The stars were incredibly clear out there, away from city lights. I'm not much of an astronomer, but I could pick out the Big Dipper and Orion easily enough. I was just sitting there looking up when I realized some of the stars seemed brighter than others. That's not unusual, obviously, but these particular stars were forming a pattern I couldn't quite figure out. I stared at it for a few minutes, trying to see what my brain was trying to tell me. Then it clicked into place like one of those optical illusions that suddenly make sense. The bright stars spelled out a word. Run. I stood up fast enough that my chair tipped over. My heart was pounding. I looked around the campsite, half expecting to see someone standing there, but there was nothing, just the dark shapes of other RVs and the red rocks in the distance. When I looked back up at the sky, the word was gone, or rather I couldn't see it anymore. The stars were just stars again, in their normal positions. I told myself I'd imagined it. Too much beer, tired eyes, pattern recognition gone haywire. Our brains do that. They find faces in clouds and shapes in static. I went inside and lay down on the fold-out couch, but I didn't sleep much. The next morning, I didn't mention it. Marcus made coffee and eggs, and Jenna complained about the RV's shower pressure. We drove into Moab for breakfast at a diner and spent the afternoon at Corona Arch. Everything was fine. But that night after dinner, I sat outside again. I couldn't help myself. I needed to see if it would happen again. It did. Around 11, after Marcus and Jenna had gone to bed, the stars started to coalesce into patterns again. This time it took longer for my eyes to adjust and see it. But once I did, I couldn't unsee it. Not safe here. 4 words, spread across maybe 30 degrees of sky. The letters weren't perfect. Some stars served double duty between letters, but it was clear enough that there was no mistaking it. I went inside and got my phone. I pulled up a star chart app and aimed it at the sky, trying to see if this was some kind of actual constellation pattern I just hadn't noticed before. But the app showed nothing unusual. Cassiopeia, Perseus, Andromeda, all in their normal positions. The app didn't see what I was seeing. I woke up Marcus. "What?" he said groggily, sitting up in the bed above the cab. Jenna stirred, but didn't wake. "Come outside for a second," I said. "I need you to look at something." He followed me out in his boxers and t-shirt, squinting against the cold. "This better be good, man. I was actually sleeping for once." "Look at the stars," I said, pointing up. "Do you see anything weird?" He looked up for maybe 5 seconds. "Stars. I see stars, Ethan. What am I looking for?" "Do any of them form patterns? Like words?" He turned to look at me. "Are you high?" "I'm serious, just look." He humored me for another minute, then shook his head. "I don't see anything, man. Can I go back to bed now?" "You really don't see it?" I pointed at the section of sky where "not safe here" was still clearly visible to me. "Right there, those bright stars." Marcus followed my finger, squinted, then sighed. "Ethan, they all look the same to me. It's just stars. Maybe you need to ease up on the beer before bed." I let him go back inside. I stayed outside for another hour, watching as the words eventually faded, or my ability to see them faded, into the normal random scatter of stars. By 1 in the morning, I couldn't make out the message anymore. I slept badly again. Monday morning, Jenna suggested we check out some rock art sites she'd read about. Marcus was into it, so we drove out to a trailhead near the Potash Road. The petroglyphs were interesting, ancient symbols carved into rock faces, but I couldn't focus. I kept thinking about the messages in the stars. On the drive back, our GPS started acting strange. It kept recalculating the route, even though we were on a straight highway. Then it told us to turn onto a road that didn't exist. Marcus laughed it off and switched to his phone, but that GPS was glitching too. "Must be the canyon walls messing with the satellite signal," Jenna said. "Maybe. But I noticed the car clock was wrong too. It said 7:43 p.m., even though it was barely past 4 in the afternoon. I checked my phone. 4:17 p.m. I checked my watch. 4:16 p.m. Marcus noticed me staring at the dashboard. "Yeah, that clock's been weird since we picked up the rental," he said. "It keeps jumping ahead." We got back to the RV park around 5. I volunteered to make dinner just to keep myself busy. While I was cutting vegetables, I realized I couldn't remember the drive back. Not clearly, anyway. I remembered leaving the rock art site and getting in the car, and I remembered pulling into the RV park, but everything in between was fuzzy, like I'd zoned out for 40 minutes. That night, I tried to stay inside. I played games on my phone, read a few chapters of my book. Marcus and Jenna watched a movie on his laptop. Around 10, Jenna went to bed. Marcus stayed up scrolling on his phone. "You okay?" he asked at one point. "You've been weird since yesterday." "I'm fine," I said. "Just not sleeping great." "Is it about the stars thing?" Because I wasn't trying to be a dick, but "It's fine," I cut him off. "Really, I know it sounds crazy. Little bit, he said, but he smiled. But hey, we've all got weird brains. Mine tells me I'm forgetting something important at least 5 times a day. We talked for a while longer about nothing important, and then he went to bed too. I should have gone to sleep. Instead, I went outside. The message appeared within 20 minutes. They know you see. I felt cold despite the fact that it wasn't particularly chilly. I sat there at the picnic table, staring up at those 4 words, and tried to think rationally about what was happening. Either I was having some kind of psychological episode, stress-induced hallucinations or early-onset schizophrenia or something genuinely impossible was happening. Neither option was good. I heard footsteps on gravel behind me and nearly fell off the bench, but it was just the old man from the Airstream walking his dog. He nodded at me as he passed. "Beautiful night," he said. "Yeah," I managed. He paused. "You from around here?" "Denver, just visiting." "Thought so. You've got that look." "What look?" He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Tourist look. Folks come out here thinking they'll find something. Most of them do, one way or another." He tugged on the dog's leash. "Have a good night." He walked off toward the front of the park. I watched him go, then looked back at the sky. The message was still there. They know you see. "Who knows?" I said out loud to the sky. "What do I see?" The stars didn't rearrange themselves to answer. I went inside eventually and lay awake until dawn. Tuesday, Marcus wanted to do a longer hike out in the Maze district of Canyonlands. Jenna wasn't feeling well. She said her stomach was bothering her, so she stayed at the RV. Marcus and I drove out alone. The Maze is aptly named. It's one of the most remote sections of the park, a labyrinth of canyons that all look identical. Cell service was non-existent. We parked at a trailhead and started down into the canyons with plenty of water, and Marcus's downloaded GPS maps. "This is incredible," Marcus said as we descended into the first canyon. The rock formations towered above us, striated in reds and oranges. "I can't believe more people don't come out here." "It's because it's a pain in the ass to get to," I said, "and easy to get lost in. That's what makes it fun." We hiked for about 3 hours, stopping occasionally to check the GPS and take photos. Around noon, we found a shaded spot to eat lunch. Marcus pulled out his phone to take a panorama shot. "Hey, check this out," he said, frowning at his screen. I looked over his shoulder. In the photo he'd just taken, there was something in the background. A figure, maybe 30 yards behind us, partially obscured by the canyon wall. It looked like a person, but the proportions were off somehow. Too tall, or the limbs were too long. "Was someone behind us?" Marcus asked. I didn't see anyone. He looked back the way we'd come. Nothing but empty canyon. He checked the photo again. "That's weird. Must be a shadow or something. Optical illusion." "Can I see your phone?" He handed it over. I zoomed in on the figure. It was definitely shaped like a human. Head, torso, arms, legs. But the details were blurred, like something had moved while the photo was being taken, or like it wasn't quite solid. "Delete it," I said. "What? Why?" "Just delete it." Marcus took his phone back. "Dude, you're being weird again. It's just a shadow." But he deleted it anyway. We finished lunch and kept hiking. The way back should have taken about 90 minutes. It took 4 hours. We were following the same trail, checking the GPS every 10 minutes. But somehow we kept ending up in canyons we didn't recognize. Marcus started getting frustrated around hour 2. "This doesn't make sense," he said, staring at his phone. "According to this, we should be at the parking lot already. Maybe the GPS is wrong. It's showing our path. Look, we've been walking in circles." He showed me the screen. Our trail made a series of loops like we'd been walking in figure eights for the past 2 hours. But that wasn't possible. We'd been walking in a straight line. "Your phone's glitching," I said. "It's downloaded maps. They don't glitch." We kept walking. The sun was getting lower, and I started worrying about being stuck in the canyons after dark. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, we rounded a bend and saw the parking area in the distance. When we got back to the car, my watch said 6:47 p.m., but according to Marcus's phone, it was 9:23 p.m. The car clock said 11:58 p.m. "What the hell?" Marcus said, checking his phone against his watch. "This can't be right." "Let's just get back," I said. The drive to the RV park was tense. Neither of us said much. When we finally pulled in, it was fully dark, and I checked my watch again, 7:34 p.m. Marcus's phone now said 7:35 p.m. The car clock was still wrong, stuck at 11:58. Jenna was sitting outside the RV when we got back. She looked pale. "Where have you been?" she asked. I was worried. "Hiking," Marcus said. "Sorry there was no cell service to text you. We lost track of time. You've been gone for 12 hours. "It wasn't 12 hours, Marcus said. "We left at like 9 this morning. It's only—" He checked his phone. 7:30 now. "You left at 8:15, Jenna said. She showed him her phone, with a text timestamp from him that morning. "I've been alone all day." We went inside. Jenna had made dinner and already eaten. She heated up leftovers for us while Marcus and I tried to figure out what had happened. The math didn't work. If we'd left at 8:15 and it was now 7:34, that was 11 hours, but the hike should have taken maybe 6 or 7 total. "Maybe we just lost track of time," Marcus said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Did you feel like you lost time?" Jenna asked me. I thought about it. No, it felt normal. Long, but normal. We dropped it eventually, but I could tell Marcus was unsettled. Jenna went to bed early again. Marcus and I stayed up, and around 11 I told him I was going outside for some air. "Want company?" he asked. "I'm good." I sat at the picnic table and waited. It didn't take long this time. "Leave tonight." 2 words, big and bright and impossible to miss. I stared at them for a long time, then went inside and found Marcus in the kitchenette, pouring a glass of water. "We should leave," I said. "What?" "Leave where?" "The park, tonight." He set down his glass. "Ethan, what's going on with you?" "Something's wrong here, can't you feel it?" "Wrong how? We went hiking, we got a little turned around, that's it. The time thing, the GPS, I stopped. Never mind. The stars thing again? Forget it. I'm just tired. Look, man, if you're not feeling good, we can head back to Denver a couple days early. But I'm not packing up at 11 o'clock at night." I nodded. "Yeah, okay, you're right." But I didn't sleep. I lay on the fold-out couch and listened to the sounds of the RV. Marcus snoring lightly in the cab over bed, Jenna shifting around in the back bedroom, the fridge humming. Around 2 in the morning, I heard something else. Footsteps outside. Not walking past like the old man with his dog. Walking around the RV. Slow, deliberate circles. I sat up and looked out the window, but it was too dark to see anything. The footsteps continued for maybe 5 minutes, then stopped. I stayed awake until dawn, sitting on the couch with my eyes on the door. Wednesday morning, Jenna announced she was feeling better and wanted to go into Moab to do some shopping. Marcus said he'd go with her. I told them I was going to stay at the RV and rest. "You sure?" Marcus asked. "We can stick around if you want company." "I'm fine, go. I just need some quiet." They left around 10. I watched their rental car pull out of the park, then sat at the picnic table with my laptop. I spent the next 2 hours researching everything I could find about astronomical messages, pareidolia, and shared hallucinations. Most of it was conspiracy theory garbage or pseudoscience, but I found a few academic papers about pattern recognition in random stimuli. One paper mentioned a phenomenon where people under psychological stress could perceive meaningful patterns in stars or clouds, a form of apophenia, the brain's attempt to impose order on chaos. That made sense, except I didn't feel particularly stressed, at least not until the messages started. Around noon, I noticed movement in my peripheral vision. The old man from the Airstream was standing at the edge of our campsite, watching me. "Can I help you?" I called out. He walked closer. His dog wasn't with him this time. You're the one seeing the messages. I felt my stomach drop. What? In the stars. You see them, don't you? I don't know what you're talking about. He smiled that same empty smile from before. It's okay. Happens sometimes out here. The desert does things to people. Opens things up. Opens what up? Their eyes, mostly. You see what's always been there. Most folks, they look at the sky and just see stars, but some people, they see the truth underneath. And what's the truth? He looked at me for a long moment. That we're being watched. That something out there is trying to communicate. But it only picks certain people. Special people, maybe. Or cursed ones. Hard to say which. That's insane. Is it? Then how do you explain what you're seeing? I didn't have an answer. He nodded like I'd confirmed something for him. My wife saw them too, he said. 3 years ago we came out here for our anniversary. She started seeing patterns in the stars, messages, warnings. I thought she was losing her mind. He paused. She disappeared on our 4th night here, just walked out into the desert and never came back. They found her body a month later out past the canyons. She'd walked almost 30 miles from the campsite. I'm sorry, I said, because I didn't know what else to say. The thing is, he continued, before she disappeared, she told me the messages were getting more specific, more urgent. She said they were telling her to come find them, that they needed to show her something important. He met my eyes. Do yours say that? Do they tell you to come find them? No, I said. They just tell me to leave. Then you should listen. He turned to walk away, then stopped. One more thing. Whatever you do, don't look at the stars tonight. Sometimes it's better not to know. He left before I could ask him what he meant. Marcus and Jenna got back around 4, loaded down with shopping bags. Jenna had bought a new hiking jacket and some books. Marcus had a new knife and a pair of binoculars. They were in good moods, laughing about something that had happened at the store. I didn't tell them about the old man. We made tacos for dinner and ate outside at the picnic table. The sun set in violent shades of red and orange, and Jenna took about 50 photos of it. Marcus told a story about a disastrous camping trip from his early 20s that I'd heard before but still laughed at. For a couple of hours, everything felt normal. Then night fell. I tried to stay inside after dinner. I helped clean up, played a card game with Marcus and Jenna, charged my phone. Around 10, Jenna went to bed complaining of a headache. Marcus followed shortly after. I lay down on the couch and closed my eyes, but I could feel it, the pull. Like something outside was calling to me, demanding I look up. At 11:17 p.m., I went outside. The message was the biggest yet, spanning almost the entire visible sky. Ethan Bennett. It is time to choose, my full name, spelled out in stars. I sat down hard on the picnic table bench, my legs suddenly weak. Choose what? I whispered. The stars didn't answer, but as I watched, some of them grew brighter while others faded. The message shifted, rearranging itself. Stay and understand or leave and forget. I sat there for what might have been hours, staring up at those words. My rational mind kept trying to logic it away. It's just pattern recognition. You're seeing what you want to see. This isn't real. But the message was too clear, too specific. It knew my name. Finally, I stood up. I walked away from the RV, past the airstream where the old man was presumably sleeping, toward the edge of the park where the desert began. The message followed me, or my ability to see it did. The stars rearranged themselves in the sky as I walked. Come farther. I stopped at the boundary of the park where the gravel gave way to sand and scrub brush. In the distance, I could see the dark shapes of rock formations against the slightly less dark sky. The message changed again. Walk until you see the stone circle. Then look up again. A stone circle. I didn't know what that meant, but I found myself taking a step forward, then another. Some part of my brain was screaming at me to turn around, go back to the RV, wake up Marcus and tell him we needed to leave right now. But a bigger part was desperately curious. I'd spent 3 days seeing these messages. and now I had a chance to understand what they meant. I walked into the desert. I'm not sure how long I walked. My phone said it was midnight when I checked, then 12:03, then 2:47, then 11:58. The time kept jumping around, meaningless. I kept walking, guided by nothing but the messages in the sky that kept appearing, directing me to go farther, keep going, almost there. Eventually, I found it. A circle of standing stones in a clearing between two rock formations. They weren't natural. Someone had placed them there deliberately. They looked ancient, but I couldn't tell if they were from indigenous peoples or something else. Each stone was about waist high, and there were 13 of them forming a perfect circle about 20 feet across. I stood at the edge of the circle and looked up. The entire sky had changed. The stars weren't in their normal positions anymore. They formed patterns, symbols, geometric shapes that hurt to look at directly. And in the center of it all, where the constellation Orion should have been, was a message so big and clear that I couldn't understand how I'd missed it before. We have been trying to warn you for so long. As I watched, the message changed, words appearing and disappearing faster than I could read them. Your species is running out of time. The change is coming. Some of you will see it. Some will help it. Some will die in it. More messages, faster now, flooding the sky. Your friend Marcus is already changing. Jenna is already gone. You are the only one left who can still choose. Choose what? I shouted at the sky. What am I supposed to do? The stars pulsed. Once, twice, and then went dark. All of them. The entire sky went black, like someone had turned off a switch. I stood in the stone circle in absolute darkness, my heart hammering, unable to see my own hand in front of my face. Then, slowly, the stars came back on. But they weren't the same stars as before. They were in different positions, forming different constellations I didn't recognize. And in the center of the sky, in letters that burned with a brightness that shouldn't be possible, was a single word: run. I ran. I don't remember the run back. I remember being at the stone circle one moment, and then I was at the RV park, gasping for breath, my clothes soaked with sweat. The sky had returned to normal, or what I'd thought was normal. I checked my phone. 3:47 a.m. The lights were on in the RV. I opened the door quietly. Marcus was sitting at the kitchenette table, staring at nothing. He didn't look up when I came in. Marcus? He turned his head slowly to look at me. His eyes were wrong. The pupils were too big, or maybe too small, and he wasn't blinking. Where did you go? He asked. His voice was flat, emotionless. Just for a walk. Couldn't sleep. It's almost 4 a.m. I know, I lost track of time. He stared at me for another long moment, then smiled. It was the wrong kind of smile, too wide, showing too many teeth. You saw them, didn't you? The messages. Marcus, what's wrong with you? Nothing's wrong. Everything is finally right. He stood up, and I noticed his movements were slightly off, like he was jerking between positions instead of moving smoothly. They chose you, Ethan. They've been watching all of us, but they chose you to see. You should feel honored. Who chose me? The ones who've been here longer than us, longer than humans. They're in the rocks, in the sky, in the spaces between things. They've been sleeping mostly, but they're waking up now, and they need people to help them. Help them do what? Marcus's smile got wider. Transition. This world is changing, Ethan. The old rules are breaking down. Time, space, reality. It's all becoming more flexible. They're going to reshape everything, and they need us to help guide the process. Some of us, anyway. The ones who can see the messages are the ones they've chosen. I took a step back toward the door. Where's Jenna? Jenna's sleeping. I want to see her. No, you don't. But I pushed past him toward the back bedroom. He didn't try to stop me. I opened the door. Jenna was on the bed, lying on her back with her eyes open. She wasn't moving. For a terrible moment, I thought she was dead, but then she blinked. Slowly, like she had to remember how. Jenna, I said. She turned her head to look at me. Her eyes were the same as Marcus's, wrong pupils, no emotion behind them. "Hello, Ethan. What happened to you?" "I went to see them last night when Marcus was asleep. They were in the stones in the circle. They showed me what's coming." She sat up slowly. "It's beautiful, Ethan. You should let them show you too." "Show me what?" "The transition, the new world. We're going to be part of something so much bigger than ourselves. No more pain, no more confusion, no more separation. We'll all be connected to them, to the earth, to the stars. We'll finally understand everything." I backed out of the room. Marcus was standing in the doorway, blocking my exit from the RV. "You're afraid?" he said. "That's normal. Change is scary, but you don't have to be afraid, Ethan. The message is in the stars. They're invitations, not threats. They want you to join us. Get out of my way." "Where are you going to go?" "It's happening everywhere, not just here. The messages are appearing all over the world now in different forms. Some people see them in stars, some in clouds, some in static on screens. The ones who've been chosen all see them eventually, and then they have to choose. Join the transition, or fight against it. I choose to leave." Marcus's smile faded. "That's the wrong choice." He moved toward me, still jerking between positions like a badly edited video. I grabbed the first thing I could reach, a coffee mug from the counter, and threw it at him. It hit his shoulder and shattered. He didn't react to the impact, just kept coming. I ran for the door, yanked it open, and jumped out of the RV. I expected him to chase me, but when I looked back, he was just standing in the doorway, watching me with those wrong eyes. "You can't run from it," he called out. "It's everywhere. It's in the ground beneath your feet, in the air you breathe, in the light from the stars. You're already part of it, Ethan. You just haven't accepted it yet." I ran to the rental car, praying the keys were still in it. They were. I got in, started the engine, and drove. I didn't look back. I drove straight through to Denver, stopping only for gas and to use the bathroom. It took about 6 hours, and the entire time I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see Marcus and Jenna following me. But there was never anyone behind me. My apartment was the same as I'd left it. I locked the door, closed all the curtains, and tried to sleep. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the messages in the stars. The warnings, the invitations, the choice I'd been given. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've noticed things. Small things at first. The stars at night still form patterns if I look at them long enough. Messages that tell me it's not too late. I can still join them. I can still be part of the transition. I don't look up anymore. But it's not just the stars. Sometimes I see patterns in the static on TV, or in the grain of the wood floor, or in the clouds outside my window. They're always trying to communicate, always inviting me to understand. And there are more people like Marcus and Jenna now. I see them sometimes, at the grocery store or on the bus. They move wrong, smile wrong, talk wrong. Their eyes are different. Last week, my neighbor knocked on my door and asked if I wanted to come to a gathering in the mountains. When I said no, she smiled that too wide smile and said, "That's okay. You'll change your mind eventually. Everyone does." I called Marcus's phone 3 days ago. Someone answered, but it wasn't Marcus. It sounded like his voice, but the cadence was off. The breathing between words was wrong. "Hello, Ethan," it said. "We've been waiting for you to call. Are you ready to come back?" I hung up. I've been documenting everything, writing it all down because I need someone to know what happened. What's still happening. The messages say it's a transition, a new world, a chance to be part of something greater. But I don't think that's what it really is. I think something has been waiting in the spaces between things, in the rocks and the stars and the darkness, and now it's waking up. And it's changing people, remaking them into something else. Something that looks human but isn't. And once you see the messages, once you acknowledge them, they can reach you. They can change you too. The old man's wife walked into the desert and never came back. Maybe she understood something I don't. Maybe she knew the only way to truly escape was to walk away from everything. I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Last night I made the mistake of looking up at the stars. just for a moment, just to see if the messages were still there. They were, and they were different than before. Ethan Bennett. Time is running out. Choose now. Join or be left behind. The transition is almost complete. And underneath all of that, in smaller letters that took me a moment to see, your friends miss you. I closed the curtains and went inside, but I can still feel them up there. The stars, the patterns, the messages meant only for me. They're patient. They've been here longer than humanity, longer than Earth itself maybe. They can wait a little longer, but I'm not sure I can. The thing is, I dream about the stone circle now. I dream about standing in the center of it and looking up at a sky full of impossible stars. In the dreams, I understand everything. I see the connections between all things, the patterns underlying reality, the truth of what's coming. And it's beautiful, just like Jenna said. In the dreams, I'm not afraid anymore. When I wake up, the fear comes back. But it's getting weaker. I think that's how it starts. The messages in the stars, the invitations, the slow wearing down of resistance until you accept what's being offered, until you choose to see what they want you to see. I'm writing this down now, while I can still think clearly, while I can still remember why I ran. Tomorrow I might not be able to. Tomorrow I might wake up with eyes like Marcus and Jenna, moving wrong, smiling wrong, ready to join the transition. Or tomorrow I might do what the old man's wife did. Walk into the desert and keep walking until there's nothing left but sand and stars. I haven't decided yet. But tonight, as I sit here in my apartment with the curtains drawn tight, I can feel them up there. The stars, the patterns, the messages that only I can read. They're calling to me, inviting me, promising me understanding and connection, and an end to all the fear and confusion of being human. All I have to do is look up. All I have to do is choose. The worst part is, I want to. God help me, I want to understand. I want to see what they're offering. I want to know what happens in the transition, what the new world looks like, what I could become. Maybe that's how it ends for everyone who sees the messages. Not with force, not with fear, but with curiosity. With the irresistible human urge to understand, to know, to see what's on the other side. I'm going to post this online before I make my choice. Someone should know. Someone should understand what happened to all of us. To Marcus and Jenna and the old man's wife and me and all the other people who've seen the messages and made their choices. If you ever find yourself in Moab or anywhere in the desert and you start seeing patterns in the stars, messages meant only for you, don't look. Don't try to understand. Don't go searching for stone circles in the darkness. Just leave. Leave and don't look back. That's what I should have done. That's what I tell myself I should have done. But I didn't. And now it's too late. The curtains are opening on their own. I didn't touch them. They're just slowly sliding open, revealing the night sky outside my window. And up there, in the stars, I can already see the message forming, bigger than before, clearer than before. Ethan Bennett. It is time. I should close my eyes. I should look away. I should run. But I'm not going to. I need to know. I need to understand. I'm looking up. My name is Olivia Davis. Everyone has the same nightmare, but we woke up with physical wounds. I need to write this down while I still remember what's real. While I can still tell the difference between what happened in the dream and what happened when we were awake. If we were ever really awake at all. We arrived at Ocala National Forest on a Thursday afternoon in late September. There were 4 of us. Me, my boyfriend Marcus, and our friends Jenny and Ray. We'd been planning this trip for months. A long weekend away from our jobs in Tampa. Just the 4 of us and our RVs parked at a primitive campsite deep in the forest. Jenny found the spot on some camping forum. Totally secluded, she'd said. No neighbors, no bathroom facilities, just us and nature. Marcus drove our 25-foot Class C while I navigated. Jenny and Ray followed in their smaller trailer. The highway gave way to state roads, then to a poorly marked dirt road that wound through increasingly dense palmetto and pine. Spanish moss hung from the live oaks like gray curtains. The GPS lost signal about 2 miles in. You sure about this place? Marcus asked, squinting at the narrow track ahead. I checked the printed directions Jenny had given me. Should be another mile or so. She said to look for a clearing marked with a blue ribbon on a fence post. We found it just as the sun started its descent, a wide clearing ringed by towering pines and thick undergrowth. Someone had made a fire ring from stones. That was it. No posts marking sites, no picnic tables, no signs that anyone maintained this place, just empty forest and the distant sound of what might have been a creek. Perfect, Jenny declared as she hopped out of Ray's truck, arms spread wide. She was like that, embracing everything with an enthusiasm that made me feel tired just watching. Completely off the grid, Ray started setting up their trailer with practiced efficiency. He'd been camping since he was a kid, one of those people who actually enjoyed sleeping on the ground and cooking over open flames. Marcus and I were more comfortable in our RV with its working toilet and propane stove, which Ray liked to tease us about. You two are glamping, he said as Marcus leveled our vehicle. This isn't real camping. I'm 34, Marcus replied. I've earned the right to shit indoors. We spent the evening like you'd expect, sitting around the fire, drinking beer, telling stories. Jenny tried to spook us with tales about Ocala's reputation. They call this the Ocala curse, she said, her face half lit by flames. People disappear here all the time. Hikers, campers. They just vanish. That's because it's 600 square miles of forest, Ray said. People get lost. It's not supernatural. It's stupidity. Tell that to Daryl Gore, Jenny countered. Or Pamela Smith. Or the college student who vanished 3 years ago. They never found any of them. I didn't like the conversation. I'd had enough nightmares as a kid. Terrible, vivid things that made me afraid to sleep until I was 12. My parents took me to therapists who said it was just an overactive imagination. The nightmares eventually stopped, but I still didn't like discussing that sort of thing before bed. Like speaking it would call it back. Can we talk about something else? I asked. Marcus squeezed my hand. He knew about my history. Sure. Ray, tell us about that disaster date you had last month. The conversation shifted, and I relaxed. We stayed up until almost midnight before the exhaustion of the drive caught up with us. Marcus and I said our goodnights and retreated to our RV. I brushed my teeth at the tiny sink, changed into pajamas and climbed into the bed that folded down over the driver's seat. Marcus was asleep within minutes, his breathing deep and even. I lay awake longer, listening to the forest. The sound was different than the city. Not silent, but full of small noises I couldn't identify. Rustling in the undergrowth. Something moving through the leaves overhead. The distant call of an owl. Eventually, my eyes grew heavy, and I drifted off. The nightmare started immediately. I was standing in the clearing, but it was wrong. The fire still burned, but the flames were the wrong color, almost blue, casting strange shadows. Jenny stood on the opposite side, her mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear. Marcus was on his knees beside me, hands pressed to his ears. And Ray. Ray was facing away from us, completely still, his head tilted at an angle that made my stomach lurch. Then I saw it. A figure at the edge of the clearing, not quite human, tall and thin, with arms that hung too long and a face I couldn't focus on. Every time I tried to look directly at it, my eyes slid away, like my brain refused to process what it was seeing. The figure raised one arm and pointed at us, at me. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The figure took a step forward, then another, moving with a jerky wrong motion like a film skipping frames. Marcus was still on his knees, Jenny still screaming silently. Ray didn't move at all. The figure reached out. I jerked awake, gasping, my heart hammering against my ribs. The RV was dark except for the faint glow of Marcus's phone charging on the counter. He was still asleep beside me, undisturbed. Just a dream, just a stupid dream brought on by Jenny's stories. But my arm hurt. I reached over and turned on the overhead light. Marcus groaned and threw an arm over his eyes. What the hell, Liv? My arm, I said, looking down at my bare forearm. 3 long scratches ran from my elbow to my wrist, parallel and deep enough to have drawn blood. Did I scratch myself in my sleep? Marcus sat up, blinking. Jesus, those look bad. Did you have a nightmare? How did you... I stopped, stared at him. Marcus, your neck. He reached up, confused, then his fingers found it. A mark on the side of his neck, like someone had pressed their thumb into the soft flesh below his jaw, hard enough to bruise. We looked at each other in the dim light. Neither of us said anything for a long moment. Must have happened in my sleep, Marcus finally said. Maybe I slept weird, pinched a nerve or something. And I scratched myself, somehow, without waking up. You said you had a nightmare? Did you? He hesitated. Yeah. How did you know? What was it about? This is going to sound weird, but we were in the clearing. The fire was burning, but it was blue. And there was something at the edge of the trees. I couldn't look at it directly every time I tried. He trailed off, rubbing his neck. It's already fading. You know how dreams are. My throat went dry. Were Jenny and I in it? And Ray? Yeah. Jenny was screaming. Ray had his back to us, and you were standing next to me. He looked at me. Why? Did you have the same dream? I think so. I mean, it's hard to remember exactly, but blue fire. Something at the trees. Jenny screaming. We sat there, not quite looking at each other. The rational part of my brain, the part that hadn't had nightmares since childhood, the part that worked in data analysis and dealt with facts and numbers, was trying to explain it. We'd both been thinking about Jenny's stories. Our subconscious minds created similar scenarios. The scratches and bruise were coincidence. I'd read somewhere that people could hurt themselves in their sleep without realizing it. It's just weird, Marcus said, that we'd have the same dream. Jenny probably has everyone in this forest spooked with her stories. Yeah, probably. But neither of us sounded convinced. Marcus turned off the light and we lay back down. I kept my eyes open in the dark, watching the shadows, listening to the sounds outside. It took me a long time to fall asleep again, and when I did, I didn't dream. Or if I did, I didn't remember it. Morning came with bright sunlight through the RV windows and the smell of coffee from Ray's campfire. I pulled on jeans and a long-sleeved shirt to cover the scratches, then joined the others outside. Jenny looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Ray was quiet, staring into his coffee mug. Marcus emerged a few minutes after me, wearing a collar-up shirt despite the warmth. Rough night? Jenny asked, her voice hoarse. Bad dreams, I said carefully. You? She held up her hand. 3 scratches ran across her palm, similar to the ones on my arm. Woke up like this, and I had this nightmare. We were all here, but the fire was wrong. Blue, I think. And there was something watching us from the trees. The coffee mug slipped from Ray's hand, hitting the ground with a dull thud. We all had it, he said. The same dream. Nobody spoke. The forest around us seemed to press closer, the cheerful morning sunlight suddenly less comforting. Show me your marks, Jenny said. We did. Ray had a bruise on his arm, dark purple in the shape of a handprint. Marcus showed his neck. I rolled up my sleeve. Jenny had her scratched palm. All of us injured. All of us from the same nightmare. This is fucked up, Marcus said. How is this possible? Shared dreams are documented, Jenny said. She'd always been interested in paranormal stuff, crystals and auras and past lives. Usually I found it harmless, if a little silly. Now her seriousness made my skin crawl. Twin studies show it. Couples sometimes experience it. But 4 people having identical nightmares and waking up with corresponding wounds. She shook her head. I've never heard of that. There has to be a logical explanation, Ray said, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe we were all exposed to something. Carbon monoxide from the fire? Some kind of toxin in the air? That doesn't explain the wounds, I said. Stigmata, Jenny whispered. physical manifestations of psychological trauma. That's not real, Marcus said sharply. That's medieval superstition. Then explain our injuries. No one could. We sat around the dead campfire in uncomfortable silence, each of us lost in our own thoughts. I kept touching the scratches on my arm, running my fingers along the edges. They were real. This was happening. We should leave, I said finally. Pack up and go home. Agreed, Marcus said immediately, but Jenny was shaking her head. Not yet. Not until we figure out what's happening. What if we bring this home with us? What if it follows? What it? Ray demanded. There's no it. We had bad dreams and somehow hurt ourselves, that's all. Is it? Jenny pulled out her phone, though I knew she wouldn't have service out here. I want to document this. Take pictures of our wounds. Write down everything we remember from the dream. If it happens again... It won't happen again, Marcus said, because we're leaving. I'm staying, Jenny said stubbornly. Ray? He hesitated, looking between us. One more night. If nothing happens, we know it was just... I don't know, coincidence. But if it happens again, we have more data. We can figure it out. Data, I repeated. Ray, we're not conducting an experiment here. Why not? Jenny's right about one thing. What if we don't understand what's happening? What if leaving makes it worse? He stood up, brushing dirt from his jeans. Look, I'm as freaked out as you are, but running away without understanding why feels wrong. One more night. If we all have the dream again, we leave first thing in the morning. Deal? I looked at Marcus. He was frowning, clearly unhappy, but I could see him considering it. That was Marcus, always trying to solve problems, never one to leave loose ends. Finally, he sighed. Fine, one more night. But we stay together. No one goes off alone. We spent the day trying to act normal. Ray and Jenny went on a hike around the area, though they stayed within shouting distance of camp. Marcus and I sat outside the RV, reading books we couldn't concentrate on. Every sound made me jump. The wind in the trees sounded like whispers. Shadows seemed to move when I wasn't looking directly at them. Around noon, Jenny came back looking pale. There are marks, she said, on the trees. We followed her about 100 yards from camp to a grove of pines. Someone, something, had carved symbols into the bark. Not the usual initials and hearts you'd see at a campsite. These were strange, angular shapes that hurt to look at. They seemed to writhe and shift in my peripheral vision. How long have these been here? Marcus asked. No way to tell, Ray said, examining them closely. Could be years old. Could be recent. They weren't here when we arrived, Jenny insisted. I walked this exact path yesterday scouting for the bathroom spot. You don't know that. It was getting dark. I know what I saw, Jenny snapped. These are new. I didn't want to look at the symbols. Something about them made my head ache, made my vision blur. Let's go back to camp, I said. The afternoon crawled by. We made a half-hearted dinner of hot dogs and beans, no one very hungry. The sun set early behind the thick canopy, and shadows swallowed the clearing. Ray built up the fire again, larger this time, as if the light could protect us. I have a theory, Jenny said as we sat around the flames. What if something happened here, some kind of tragedy, and we're, I don't know, tapping into it, experiencing an echo of it? Ghosts, Ray said flatly. Not ghosts. Residual energy. A traumatic event leaves an imprint. We're sensitive to it, and our minds are processing it through dreams. And the wounds, I asked. Psychosomatic. Our brains are so convinced by the dream that they create physical symptoms. It was a reach, but I wanted to believe it. The alternative, that something was actively doing this to us, was too frightening to consider. Let's stay up, Marcus suggested. If we don't sleep, we can't dream. But exhaustion crept up on all of us. Ray dozed off first, his head nodding forward. Jenny fought it, jerking awake every time her eyes closed, but eventually she slumped over. Marcus and I held out longest, gripping each other's hands, determined to make it through the night. Stay awake, I told him. "We have to stay awake." "I'm trying," he mumbled, his eyes already half closed. "So tired. Marcus." But he was gone, his breathing evening out. I shook him, but he didn't respond. Panic rose in my chest. I stood up, thinking movement would help, but my legs felt heavy. My eyelids weighed 1,000 pounds. This wasn't normal fatigue. Something was pulling us under. I tried to walk back to the RV. Maybe if I could lie down, sleep properly, the dream wouldn't come. But I only made it 3 steps before my knees gave out. The ground rushed up to meet me, soft pine needles and dirt. I fought against the darkness, but it swallowed me whole. The nightmare was worse this time. We were in the clearing again, all 4 of us. But now the blue flames were higher, crackling and spitting. Jenny wasn't just screaming. She was crying too, tears streaming down her face as her mouth opened in that silent wail. Ray was still turned away, but now I could see why. His head was twisted completely around, facing backward while his body faced forward. And Marcus was laughing. A horrible, broken sound that didn't match his expression of pure terror. The figure was closer now. Close enough that I could almost make out features, almost see what it really was. Tall and impossibly thin, with skin that seemed to shift and crawl. Where its face should be was just darkness, a void that pulled at my vision, made me feel like I was falling into it. It pointed at me again. This time I felt it, a searing pain in my chest, like something was reaching inside and squeezing my heart. I looked down. Blood was spreading across my shirt, blooming like a flower. I tried to speak, to ask for help, but when I opened my mouth, only blood came out. The figure took another step, its arm extended, stretching impossibly long, reaching for me. I woke up choking, gasping for air. Dawn light filtered through the trees. I was still on the ground where I'd collapsed, covered in dew. My chest burned. With shaking hands, I pulled up my shirt. 4 long gouges ran across my chest, deep enough that they were still bleeding sluggishly. They hurt like hell. Around me, the others were waking up too, all of them groaning and disoriented. Jenny sat up and immediately vomited into the dirt. Ray curled into a fetal position, whimpering. Marcus crawled toward me, and I saw that his face was covered in small cuts, dozens of them, like he'd been hit with broken glass. "What's happening to us?" Jenny sobbed. "What the fuck is happening?" "We're leaving," I said, my voice hoarse. "Right now. Pack up everything. We're getting out of here." No one argued. We moved like zombies, taking down tents, disconnecting water lines, closing up the RVs. Jenny could barely function. Ray had to help her. Marcus's hands shook so badly he kept dropping things. My chest screamed with every movement, but I ignored it. We had to leave. We had to get away from this place. It was Ray who noticed it first. "Where are the keys?" "What?" Marcus patted his pockets, then went pale. "They were in my jacket, right there on the picnic table." The picnic table was bare except for our dirty dishes from dinner. "Mine too," Ray said, checking his truck. "They're gone." We tore the camp apart looking for them. Searched the RVs, the vehicles, the ground around the fire pit. Nothing. Both sets of keys had vanished. "Someone took them," Jenny said. Her voice had gone flat, emotionless. Shock, I realized. She was in shock. "While we were asleep, someone was here." "Or something," Ray added quietly. The forest seemed to close in around us. Every shadow held menace. Every sound was a potential threat. "Okay," Marcus said, trying to sound calm and failing. "Okay." We hike out, follow the road back to the highway. Someone will give us a ride. We'll call for help. "That's 5 miles, Ray said. "Through the forest, in our condition." "You have a better idea?" We didn't, so we gathered what we could carry. Water bottles, a first aid kit, our phones even though they were useless without signal. Marcus found a tire iron in his RV and carried it like a weapon. Ray took a hunting knife from his gear. "Stay together," I said. "No matter what. Nobody gets separated." We started walking. The forest was different in daylight. The path we'd driven in on seemed narrower, overgrown. Branches I didn't remember reached across the dirt road. The trees pressed closer on both sides, blocking out most of the sun. We walked for what felt like hours. Jenny was fading, leaning heavily on Ray. Marcus and I brought up the rear, constantly looking behind us. My chest throbbed with every step, and I could feel fresh blood seeping through my shirt. "How far have we gone?" Marcus asked. I checked my phone. No signal, but the GPS still worked. "Maybe a mile." "It doesn't look right. I don't remember the road being this narrow." He was right. The road was barely visible now, more like a game trail than anything a vehicle could navigate. And there were those symbols again, carved into the trees on both sides. More of them now. Hundreds of them. They covered every trunk, writhing and shifting. "Jenny," Ray called from ahead. "Jenny, stay with me." She'd stopped walking, just stood there in the middle of the path, staring at something I couldn't see. "Jenny?" I moved forward carefully. "What is it?" "I was here," she whispered. "In the dream, this exact spot. We have to keep moving." "No." She turned to look at me, and her eyes were wrong, too wide, too bright. "We can't leave. It won't let us." "Jenny, you're not making sense. Come on." Ray tried to take her arm, but she jerked away. "It's in my head," she said. Her voice changed, became deeper, rougher. "It's been in my head since the first dream. I can hear it talking. It says..." She smiled, and it was the worst smile I'd ever seen. "It says we're home now." Then she ran, not back toward camp, but sideways, crashing through the undergrowth into the deep forest. Ray shouted and went after her without thinking. Within seconds, they both disappeared into the trees. "Ray!" Marcus yelled. "Ray, come back." Silence. Even the birds had stopped singing. "We have to go after them," I said. "That's what it wants, to separate us. We can't just leave them." Marcus grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him. "Listen to me. Something is very wrong with Jenny. You saw her eyes. That wasn't her anymore. If we follow them, we'll get lost too." "So what do?" He didn't answer. We stood there on the path, alone, surrounded by marked trees and oppressive silence, waiting for something to happen. The scream, when it came, nearly stopped my heart. High and terrible, full of pain and terror. It cut off abruptly, leaving only echoes. "Ray," I breathed. Marcus's grip on the tire iron tightened. "Keep walking, we have to keep walking." "But now, Liv." We walked. Or tried to. But the path kept changing. We'd go around a bend and somehow end up back where we started. The symbols on the trees multiplied, covering every surface. And there were other things now, scratch marks on the ground like something had been dragged, dark stains on the leaves that might have been blood. My phone said we'd walked 3 miles, but the highway should have been visible by now. We should have heard traffic. "We're going in circles," Marcus said. "It's leading us back." "Back where?" "To camp. It wants us at the camp." He was right. I could smell smoke now, the familiar scent of our campfire. And there, through the trees, was the clearing. Our RVs sat exactly where we'd left them. "No," I said. "No, we walked for miles. We couldn't have..." Jenny was standing by the fire, her back to us, perfectly still. "Jenny?" Marcus called carefully. "Where's Ray?" She turned around slowly. Her face was spattered with blood. When she smiled, her teeth were red. "He's sleeping," she said in that wrong, too deep voice. "Like all of you will be soon. Sleeping and dreaming, forever and ever and ever." She started walking toward us. Not walking, gliding, her feet barely touching the ground. Marcus raised the tire iron. "Stay back," he warned. "Jenny, I know you're in there. Fight it." "Jenny's sleeping too," the thing wearing Jenny's face said. She invited it in with her stories and her belief. She opened the door. "And now you'll all come through." She lunged. Marcus swung the tire iron, but Jenny was impossibly fast. She ducked under the blow and grabbed his wrist, twisting until something cracked. Marcus screamed. The tire iron fell. I ran. Didn't think, just bolted for the RV. Got the door open and threw myself inside, slamming and locking it behind me. Through the window, I watched Jenny, the thing that used to be Jenny, pick Marcus up by the throat. His feet kicked uselessly at the air. "Stop!" I screamed, pounding on the window. "Let him go!" The thing turned to look at me. Jenny's eyes had gone completely black, like the void in the figure's face from our dreams. "Come out," it said. "Come out and dream with us." "Live," Marcus managed to choke out. "Run." The thing squeezed and Marcus went limp. I don't remember making the decision. Don't remember my hands moving. But suddenly I was at the RV's ignition and I was hot wiring it like my dad had taught me when I was 16. The engine coughed, sputtered, then roared to life. The thing dropped Marcus and came for me. I slammed the RV into gear and hit the gas. The vehicle lurched forward. I saw the thing's face smash against the windshield. Then it was gone, thrown aside or underneath. I didn't care which. I drove. Branches scraped the sides of the RV. Something large went under the wheels with a sickening crunch. The road, if it could even be called that, was barely visible. But I kept my foot down, crashing through underbrush and around trees. The speedometer said I was going 40. My phone said I'd gone 2 miles, 3, 4, but I never reached the highway. Instead, the trees opened up and I was back in the clearing. Again. My RV sat there, exactly where I'd left it, and standing beside it was Marcus, whole and unhurt. "Liv?" he called. "Where did you go? Are you okay?" I hit the brakes, stared at him through the windshield. This wasn't possible. I'd just seen him, seen the thing kill him. "Honey," he walked toward me, concern on his face. "You look pale. Did something happen?" "Don't come closer," I warned. He stopped. "What's wrong? Did you find Ray and Jenny?" "You're not real. You're not Marcus." "What are you talking about? Liv, you're scaring me. Just come out. We'll figure this out together." I looked at his neck. The bruise from the first night was still there. His face still showed the cuts from the second dream. But his wrist, the wrist Jenny broke, was fine. "Show me your arm," I said. "Your left arm." He hesitated. "Why?" "Just do it." Slowly he rolled up his sleeve. The arm was unmarked. Smooth skin, no injury. "You're not him," I whispered. "You're not Marcus." The thing wearing Marcus's face smiled. "Does it matter? He's sleeping. You're all sleeping. This is the dream, Olivia. You never left. You never woke up." The world tilted. I looked down at my hands on the steering wheel. Were they my hands? Was this the RV? Was any of this real? Through the windshield, I saw more figures emerging from the trees. Ray, blood covering his shirt but walking normally. Jenny, face clean, smiling that terrible smile. And others, people I didn't recognize. A young woman in hiking gear. An older man in a park ranger uniform. A little girl holding a stuffed rabbit. All of them with those black, empty eyes. "Join us," they said in unison. "Sleep and dream. It's easier than fighting. So much easier." My phone buzzed. Impossible, there was no signal. But it buzzed again and I looked down at the screen. A text message from my own number. "Wake up." The world shattered. I was lying on the ground, the real ground, cold and damp with morning dew. My chest ached, my head throbbed, and every muscle in my body screamed in protest. But I was awake. Really awake. Marcus lay beside me, unconscious but breathing. No injuries except the cuts on his face and the mark on his neck. Ray was a few feet away, curled on his side. And Jenny. Jenny was gone. Her sleeping bag was empty, the sides torn open from the inside. "Marcus." I shook him hard. "Marcus, wake up." His eyes snapped open. "Where? What happened?" "I don't know, but we're leaving. Right now. Where are the keys?" He felt his pockets, and by some miracle his keys were there. Ray's too, sitting on the picnic table, like they'd never been gone. We loaded Ray into the back seat of Marcus's truck. He wouldn't wake up, just mumbled incoherently. and then Marcus started the engine while I grabbed our phones and wallets. I didn't care about anything else, just wanted out. The road was there, clear and obvious, just as it had been when we drove in. We reached the highway in 20 minutes. Ray woke up as we hit pavement. "Where's Jenny?" were his first words. We didn't answer, didn't know how to answer. We drove straight to the hospital in Ocala, told the doctors we'd had a carbon monoxide leak or something, that our friend had gone missing in the forest. They treated our wounds, ran tests, kept us overnight for observation. Everything came back normal except for sleep deprivation and the injuries we'd sustained. The police found Jenny 3 days later. She was sitting at our campsite, right by the cold fire pit, unharmed. No memory of what had happened after the first night. She said she'd woken up alone, waited for us to come back, but we never did. They found symbols carved in the trees, just like we'd described. Old, they said. Probably some kind of primitive trail markers or property boundaries. Nothing supernatural about them. The wounds healed. The scratches on my arm, the cuts on Marcus's face, the bruises, all faded within a few weeks. But I still have scars on my chest. 4 parallel lines that look like claw marks. They itch sometimes, especially at night when I'm trying to fall asleep. We don't talk about what happened. Not really. Ray moved to California. Jenny's in therapy trying to recover the lost days. Marcus and I are still together, but we don't camp anymore. Don't even go hiking. We stay in the city, in our apartment with lots of lights and neighbors close by. I still have the dreams sometimes, not every night, but often enough. Blue flames and a figure at the edge of the trees. Jenny screaming silently. Ray with his head turned backward. Marcus laughing that horrible laugh. And sometimes when I wake up, there are new scratches on my arms. New bruises on my skin. Small ones. Like reminders. Marcus has them too, though we don't discuss it. We just cover them up and go about our lives and pretend that what happened in Ocala National Forest was just a bad trip. Some weird mass hallucination, anything but what it actually was. But I know the truth. I know we didn't escape. Not really, because sometimes late at night I hear Jenny's voice, not from the phone, not from any device, just there in my head, speaking in that deep, wrong register. "You're still sleeping, Olivia. We're all still sleeping. And soon you'll dream with us forever." I look at Marcus, and I wonder if he's real. If this apartment is real. If I'm actually awake, or if I'm still lying on that forest floor, dreaming I escaped. The worst part is not knowing, never knowing for sure. I reach out and touch the scars on my chest. They're warm, warmer than the rest of my skin. Almost like something's moving beneath them. And every night when I close my eyes, I see that clearing, that fire, those black, empty eyes watching from the trees, waiting for me to fall asleep, waiting for me to come home.